Hey YouTube, it's Sheev the Wise. Today we're going to talk about Cid's room and some of the Easter eggs that were hiding inside of it. So let's get into it.
Join me. Together we can rule the galaxy. I am the Senate.
I feel like this room had a lot of implications in it and a lot of little Easter eggs that might pay off later down the line. One of the first things we see in Cid's room is Jangos blasters. Now these might not be the same Jango blasters that we've seen in the past, but either way they're the same type of model at least. We can see these blasters strung up on the wall above her seat in the room. Another thing that we see in Cid's room is the helmet of a clone pilot. This really intrigues me because I'm really curious how she got this helmet, as the Empire has only been established within probably a few weeks. Also, we know that Cid had a connection to the Jedi, and another thing I'm really curious about is what Jedi could have possibly worked with her. She seems like somewhat of a shady character that cares more about her payday and herself than about anything else. Among other things that we see in Cid's room, we also see what looks to be a Rancor tooth sitting on her table. This actually made me think, what if that Rancor tooth belongs to Muchi's mother? I had thoughts that maybe this implied that Cid potentially killed Muchi's mother and then sold Muchi to the Zygarians, only to have the Bad Batch steal Muchi away from the Zygarians after and bring her back for a reward. It totally seems like it was something that would fit this Cid character, and I wouldn't put it out of the question yet. Also, I want to shout out to Star Wars News. The two of us collaborated on a little theory. A couple times throughout this episode, you can see a black cube sitting on Cid's desk. Now at first glance, this just looks like a black cube. However, there are scenes where it seems like they sort of don't really want you to see it, as it's blocked by other characters, and then later on in the episode, we get a much more clear picture of it. While Cid is talking to Bib Fortuna, we get a much more clear view of this box. Star Wars News thought that this could potentially be a Sith Holocron, and while I pointed out that it was much more of a cube than the triangle shape that we see normal Sith Holocrons, it is possible that there is a dark Holocron, or this Jedi Holocron became corrupted and turned into a dark Holocron. The only time we ever see or hear about a dark Holocron is in Legends, but there is one instance of it. To me, this looks like a dark Holocron, but let me know what you guys think it could potentially be. Now the last thing that we see in Cid's room kind of blew my mind, and it took me a little bit to find it. It's a white prototype Boba helmet. Now the original concept art for Boba Fett had him in a white suit of armor that resembled that of this helmet. There's even a Black Series version of this helmet that was available for sale quite some time ago, and dang do I wish I had one. This helmet is really cool, and there's a lot of implications of what it could possibly lead to, unless it's just a little Easter egg for the fans that sweat over Star Wars and love to look over every little detail. Now I see two possibilities of what this could potentially lead to. Back in the Clone Wars, we know that Boba Fett tried to use his father's helmet to assassinate Mace Windu. Now he used his father's helmet as bait in an explosion, which most likely destroyed the helmet. Now this Easter egg sent me down a rabbit hole, to which I found a Rebel Force Radio Dave Filoni clip, in which Dave Filoni talks about the fate of Jango Fett's helmet. Now I'm going to play this little clip for you guys, and then we're going to speculate on it and talk about the potential of this white helmet becoming Boba Fett's.
The deal with Jango Fett's helmet. A lot of people had jumped to the conclusion that Boba was wearing Jango Fett's helmet, however modified and repainted, when we saw him in Empire Strikes Back. But yet, that helmet was clearly destroyed.
Boom. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So that definitely was Jango Fett's helmet, the one that young Boba was shown holding up to his head at the end of Attack of the Clones.
Well, all I can tell you is, according to George, that is the case. And I pointed out exactly what you guys did about the dent and everything, etc. But, to George, I think the idea that Boba would want the last thing that Mace Windu to see be that helmet because it would bring the recognition to Mace of who Boba was. You know, that was really important. I mean, we can easily spend this entire time talking about Boba Fett.
So if Jango's helmet is really destroyed, that means there's no possible way the helmet we see Boba wear in the future is the same one. It even looks a tiny bit different, even though they look very similar between the original trilogy and the prequels. Now, the worn helmet that we see Boba wear in Empire Strikes Back, where the dent is, you can actually see a little bit of white paint. Jango actually had a dent in his helmet as well, and the paint never chipped off for his. Maybe this is because Boba's helmet just got old. Maybe he just had somewhat of a choppy paint job of the green paint on there, and when the blaster hit the helmet, it caused the paint to chip. So at this point, Boba Fett would most likely not have a helmet. Now I'm very curious where Sid would have got this white Mandalorian helmet, and it does resemble exactly the white prototype helmet that Boba Fett wore in the concept art. So I think it's very possible that Boba Fett could end up buying this from her, or it was already commissioned and made for him, and she was just holding it. I think it's also possible that Sid knows Fennec Shand through Boba Fett, and I believe at this point Boba Fett may already know Fennec Shand as she's an up-and-coming member of the guild, and I think he may already be a member of the guild himself. I definitely am getting the vibes that Boba Fett is actually going to be in the Bad Batch. I've actually been looking into this very deep the past week, and I'm almost sure of it at this point. This white helmet has very, very deep implications. The fact that we see Jango's blaster in the same room, along with 2 other clone helmets, just makes me think there's no possible way Dave Filoni would have done all of this in one room without it connecting. The last bit of evidence that I have to prove that this could potentially be true is the fact that we see Boba Fett working with Bossk at this time. We also see Boba working with Bossk in Empire Strikes Back, and Bossk being a Trandoshan makes me think that it's possible he has relations to Sid, and that's how Sid knows about Boba, and how she would potentially know about Fennec Shand. We also know from unfinished Clone Wars episodes that Boba Fett eventually gets his armor at the end of Clone Wars and gets his dent while fighting Cad Bane, although that is not canon yet. I think it's very possible this helmet becomes Boba's and he paints it green along with the rest of his father's armor. I think potentially he still could fight Cad Bane in the Bad Batch, and that's how we could see the dent end up on that helmet. I really do hope that happens, but there's one other possible outcome that we could see from this helmet. It's possible as the Bad Batch continue to do missions with Sid, if they do, that at some point this helmet will become Omega's. I think that could be really cool too, as Omega is technically a Mandalorian, being the clone of Jango Fett, and frankly I just think it would be awesome to see Omega wearing a white Mando helmet. Let me know if you guys caught this Easter egg down in the comments below, and let me know what you think of my theory too. If you have your own potential theories on what could happen with this helmet, go ahead and drop it in the comments also. Don't forget to smash like if you enjoyed the video, and have a great day. May the Force be with you.